But in virtual survey, you solve the problem in the same time. You solve the surface to ground problem by taking ground points or break lines and triangulating that together at bare earth. But immediately you solve also the data volume problem because you capture the significant information with a minimum amount of points and lines, which is like a fraction we have with a raster or a point cloud. In addition to that, you also solve the point cloud raster problem because we produce points, lines, triangles, which you need in CAD.
At Sight and Scene, we feature the innovators, disruptors, and changemakers using reality capture technology to drive real impact. These are the people who saw a problem, challenged the status quo, and took action, whether restoring ecosystems, improving resilience, or transforming infrastructure.
They bring a deep sense of responsibility and stewardship to their work, leveraging technologies like drones, laser scanning, GIS, and mapping to create meaningful change. More than just experts, they're storytellers, sharing their journeys and the why behind their work. Our mission is to amplify their voices, educate, and inspire others to push boundaries and take action.
Sight and Scene.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Sight and Scene podcast. We are joining you from our virtual studios, this time with a little visuals behind it. Scott,
Yeah,
we're dusting off a little bit of it's been a couple months since we've been in the studio. We've been super busy on either end, but good to see you in person.
Yeah.
And, just doing a little reading on our end about podcasts, and people apparently like to see people talking. So here we are.
Yeah, we'll see. Either the ratings go up or they plummet completely, and then we'll know which way we want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sponsored by Guinness apparently today too. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's our first sponsorship of the.
Everybody
podcast.
loves Guinness. Yeah, I got plenty of Irish and Scottish. Well, Irish, but. Yeah, well, great to be back in the studio. We have exciting guests kind of sitting there waiting. Everybody can see Tom here, but and we'll introduce Tom here in just a minute. But because it's been a couple months, Scott, lots of things going on. Like, I know that we wanted to be in the studio more often over the summer, but summer season is the busy season, and we got to get it while we can. So, what you been up to?
Yeah, a lot. It's been a lot of topo mapping, which is like the usual. But we've been doing a lot of training. Been training a lot of engineers, a lot of architects on. I think more and more people are just picking up the drone themselves and want to get the most out of it. So it's been a lot of that. And then I think I had mentioned this maybe last time, but like we just have a lot of properties up in the Hudson Valley here. A lot of people are either selling their property or buying property. So the Hudson Valley has been very good. I've had to leave the island a lot for drone mapping, which I don't mind because it's a nice area. And it's that. And then come fall, we've got 2 big training sessions, and one of them is with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. So that's going to be a super fun one. I've loved working with that group. So it's been busy. I really can't complain.
That's fantastic. Yeah, same on my end. It's really interesting that I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary of being fully out on my own. I started the business 5 years ago, but like fully out on my own 2 years. And it's really fascinating to see all of the seeds that I planted last year. Last summer, I gave presentations to architects, engineers, and contractors, and then to see those calls are finally, some of those seeds are starting to sprout. And I've been getting all kinds of interesting calls on projects just from presentations I did last summer. So it's just really interesting to see that cycle and sometimes how long that takes. But it's same on my end. It's been a really, really good summer. Lots of topo work, lots of LiDAR work. I've been doing a lot of flying with the M350 and the L2.
Nice.
Lots of work on the back end and the processing and point clouds and terrains and laser scanning. I've been getting quite a bit into terrestrial laser scanning. So I did a large parking deck, 150,000 square foot parking deck that we scanned top to bottom and did some slab deformation studies. So really, really excited to see where things have been going, and just have a pretty healthy backlog for the fall. So good. Really, really excited for what's been going on, and apologies to our listeners that we've been a little quiet here over the last few months, but we have 2 sessions this week. So
yeah, more finally coming.
Yeah. And I, not that I'm wishing that things slow down in the winter, but I think things likely will slow down a little bit in the winter, which gives us just more time to be in the studio and bring in some really fun conversations to everybody who's tuning in. So with that, we're going to jump right in and give a proper introduction here to our guest, Tom. And I'm going to, hopefully I get your name right. Oppitant.
No, sorry. Obtained.
Optent. Okay. Apologies. So Tom,
No
he is the creator and owner of Virtual Surveyor and has a background in remote sensing and land management, plus a career that spans entrepreneurship, software development, survey technology, and much, much more. And Scott and I both have a long history with Virtual Surveyor. And Scott, I definitely want you to dive into that. But it is, just I guess to be fully transparent, this is a program that Scott and I both use heavily in our workflow. It is one of my most favorite tools that I use on a daily basis. But we are thrilled to have Tom on the show today. So Tom, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you very much. Very nice words, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And don't worry on the pronunciation of the last name. I don't think anyone ever get that right. Beginning, so
yeah, my last name is Liggett. It's Liggett, and I always joke with people, like if my first name were Jacques, that people would say it's Leger, but it's not. So it's Liggett. But anyway, yeah. Well, I'm going to hand it off to Scott just because I know that there's a longer history between you guys. And Scott, I think you have a really good question to tee things off.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Tom, I've used Virtual Surveyor now. Oh man, like we're coming close to 10 years. It's probably something closer to like 7 there. I used it. Then I loved it so much that, went and worked with you guys and still use it every single day. And I think to start with, I remember you used to have this video on YouTube that was like about a chat I think you had with a surveyor where it was like, oh, I wish I never used a drone. Yeah, I wish I never used a drone. I've probably shared that video with more people than like any video on YouTube, to be honest with you, because it just that was the idea, right? I found it when I was struggling. Like I found the software when I was struggling with drones in the very beginning, and I think people kind of sort of come to you guys in like times of need like that. Like how'd that video come to be, or like what was that conversation like that kind of got you going here?
That was as many times an interaction with a customer. And I am continuously looking for interesting ways on how to convey the mission, which is the problem that we solve. That was kind of very nice because it sounds like so negative. Oh man, I wish I never used a drone, but it actually was true because drones can be, or the promise on drones is that you can save so much time. But what nobody tells you that you have to completely change your workflow. You have to completely change all the tools you use. And if there is one missing link, it's going to be a disaster. And then the expectation is high and there's a lot of frustration. And of course, you have to deliver. So you're going to go back to your terrestrial work and say, where is this time savings that was promised me? So that was like a very nice story, and I thought it was very recognizable, and I could use it as an image to to display the solution.
Did you find that when drones were first hitting the scene, these conversations were happening then? Because I feel like drones have been, they've been in the workflow for many years. Well, many, they've been in long enough that I think people have really dialed in their workflow. And I imagine that conversation has changed quite a bit. Like how has that changed with either perception of the tool itself by surveyors? Because I think there's, I've definitely talked to plenty of surveyors where they're very dubious about the drone as far as a tool from an accuracy standpoint, or how it does come into their workflow and just how it's being used. So I'm curious from your end, because obviously you guys have been tremendously successful with your software, and I know plenty of surveyors that actually use virtual surveyors. So how have you seen that conversation maybe transition from those maybe earlier days where, oh, we gotta, it disrupts our workflow. We have to do all this stuff. Like how has that changed in the, call it in the day-to-day like sales or perception of the tool itself, and how you guys play into that?
Well, I think there is a continuous evangelizing going on to do this. In the beginning days, there were people that would like get it right away. Otherwise, we wouldn't have hit off with our
Right.
offering. But yeah, there are so many factors that play a role. Sometimes it's just the receiver of the data not knowing, okay, I can do something with a drone for this price, okay, and then suddenly they got a DSM and an auto photo, they don't know how to work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they do know how to work with that, but then it takes like forever, and then it's not necessarily particularly a problem. It just takes a lot of time, but sometimes people just don't know anything because it's new and they
Right.
want to do something with drones. But actually, drone is like what a hammer is for a carpenter. It's
Right.
a tool, okay,
Right.
for a photographer, or it's a tool for a surveyor, or it's a tool for a policeman. It's a tool, but you need to have the skills to target that tool in the direction you want. And yeah, that is, I think, still a problem for a lot of people, because we have a lot of customers, but also every week we find people saying like, look, I wish I discovered your tool much more early, or this is really the tool I need to get this job done.
Right.
Well, I didn't know this could be done like so fast, and yeah, but that's actually good, because that's what we as a company then try to do. Because if everything would be so simple, there wouldn't be a problem, and there's nothing to solve. So step by step.
So I have a question. I don't know if I've ever asked you this, Tom. Maybe I have, but it's, did you find when you were first, like when you were first starting and making the software, was the idea like a conscious decision of, okay, like we're gonna go for surveyors? That is like the idea, and like was it focused, or was it more of like a broader thing, and you found surveying to be just a thing that clicked later on?
Yeah, clicked and connecting the dots.
Yeah.
That is something that definitely comes into play here. Yeah, the history actually was, I kind of like connected the dots in 2011, 2012. Before that, I started my company in 2006. And then it was kind of, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to figure it out. Not a clear plan. I was only 28 years then. So I did have some professional experience, but more technical. I didn't really know about business. Just started doing stuff with satellite images, which is always like kind of cool. But yeah, I quickly found that to make a living, you need to have a much more volume than just selling a few things. So I quickly started searching for other things, and I combined those satellite images into some kind of a Google Earth-like kind of engine. I started to develop virtual landscapes on it for my land management background. Like, okay, this is the landscape today, and I'm going to show in the future. But that was like a lot of project work, and very long preparation times, very long. You have to wait for the budget. They have to like kind of execute, wait very long time for your money and all that. It was not like very scalable. A lot of time.
And that was with architects primarily, and land developers, or on the development
usually,
side?
Governmental organizations that wanted to create public
Got it.
Gotcha.
Communication insight and what was going to change.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Okay.
quite slow then.
Yeah. So that was like kind of, and so I was already in 3D visualization. I was in like rasters and all that at lower resolution, but yeah, not really finding stuff. And then at some point, those guys that I was working with satellite images, they did a lot. Actually, they did a lot of projects in Africa for World Bank projects for sanitation of villages, where they kind of like had to calculate houses, and we kind of already to know how many people live there. So you have to know how big the pipes have to be for the water supply or the sewage. And of course, for the pipes, topography is also important, because you have to know how the water flows. So we tried with satellite images, yeah, but of course it just doesn't work. The accuracy is not good enough. And then suddenly there was this other cool Belgian company, Gatewing, that was like kind of the first inventing drones. And that guy that was our customer actually was in Congo. He also got it like right away. Okay, I can use this drone. I can get like super high accurate topography, and I don't have to like walk around and measure points, and I can do my project there. Okay, so he bought a drone like that. He went flying there, and then he came to us. Hey, you produce the satellite images for us. So yeah, this is the same. So can you do this as well?
It's just better, so, right? Yeah. It's the same, but just the resolution is way better.
Yeah. So obviously that wasn't the case, and that was like kind of sure. We said sure, no problem. That was kind of a horrible experience. But yeah, and then in the end, that brought us really to like the thing what they needed, because we then eventually were able to make the DSM, and then we give that to them. It said, "Sorry, Tom, it looks nice, but actually this is not what we need." And actually, I always like listened. But yeah, I didn't understand. So like we start talking. I said, I'll come to your office and like we're gonna explain. And then then they kind of explain concept about like actually this is how we work as surveying. And like we measure points, and this is like a break line that's like important, and then we make it thin. And that like snapped right away, because I thought, I'm doing this visualization stuff, and I'm doing this image processing stuff. Why not like bring it together and bring the survey process in the software? And that actually was when Virtual Surveyor was born. That was 2012. So for me, that was like immediately almost like obviously clear, which makes it sometimes difficult now to understand why it's so difficult sometimes to convey that story, because everybody is on like maximum point density or full resolution, and like but okay. So that was actually the beginning, and yeah, that's
cool.
13 years ago, long time.
Yeah. And then and that was, boy, drone, 2016 to 2011, 2016, the drone data was still very, very, I think, new, and people were just buying drones to just because it was like exciting and cool thing to do.
Strapping GoPros on them. They weren't not
GPS
based.
Not that guy in Congo, because he knew how much time he could save. Like he worked a lot in very difficult accessible terrain.
Oh, I bet.
Also had like a lot of not so well educated staff. There was always like problems getting the thing measured properly and all that.
Yeah. Right.
So he wanted to take those kinds of risks and those kind of logistics problems out of that and use for drones. So he was like, he's retired now, but he was one of the like guys that like saw the potential, like right.
And this is all photogrammetry based at that point. There's no like aerial like
the LiDAR wasn't
the LiDAR on UAVs was not quite there yet. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting aspect of Virtual Surveyor that I definitely want to touch on too, is just the how you can bring point clouds in there too to create your surfaces, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think to touch on what you said there, Tom, too, right? The problem was it creates a lot of data, right? So it's you're producing all this data, and I think the funny part about what you said there is like that's the one part that's gotten worse, not better over time. Like the easier it is to fly these things, the more the cheaper LiDAR gets. Like the more stuff that we have to go through, and I totally agree with you. When I talk to like, whether it's my client or I'm talking to someone that I'm teaching or just showing somebody, it's the idea that you're making too much stuff, right? Everyone's like, oh, I bought too good a camera, I bought too good a laser scanner almost, and it's all more than I need. And I think that's the cool part. I think that's what attracted me to the software. I'm sure Mike too, of like, it's got this like it's got like a lightness to it. That's the best way I can describe it, right? It's like you're only taking what you need, because like you were saying, like surveying is only it's not that you don't need much, but you don't need all of the point cloud. Yeah, there you go. Exactly right. You're like distilling, right? And so you really only need the key stuff that's important. And I find it so interesting that like a lot of software still doesn't get that. A lot of software is like, let's give you a ton of buttons, a ton of like features and stuff that you never use, and it's really cool to see just like use a software package. So I guess was that like from the get-go, that was also the idea with that first guy there? Like it really was just like, let's give you the points, the lines, or was it more like, was that learning over time too?
Yeah, so when he explained that, I got that like right away. Because essentially you're talking about, because he explained me why you need it. Like if I read this in Civil 3D, yeah, here, I have it like right away. If I try to load that raster, I just can't get it in. So it was like obviously clear to me. Maybe because I'm open-minded or whatever. Maybe not. Maybe it's also because I have a master in land and forest management, actually. So what you see a lot in this business, you have people coming from robotics. Obviously, they are very focused on the hardware, on the drone, because they are like robotic.
Yeah.
But the robot, the drone, is just a tool. That's like what a hammer is for the carpenter. And then you have a lot of computer vision expertise, which likes a lot to do like stuff with computers and images and all that. But yeah, the images are also not like the real solution. It's just like a carrier of information. Surprisingly, when you talk to GS people, like there was never, okay, they fly order photos, but they started to draw building footprints like forever. So that like in that market is like super clear. But for surveying, for some reason not. And so I'm not a programmer. I'm not a computer vision expert. I'm not a robotics expert. But I have expertise in land management. I kind of understand like what the customer needed, I think. And of course, because I have like a little bit of engineering, I'm able to understand the other technologies and connect the dots together to see how the workflow, how the overall practice works.
Yeah.
And that's where that's actually then the problem that we solve.
Yeah.
We bring that surveying practice in the software, which I also like cool, because and when you have a different approach, when you focus a lot on photogrammetry and all kinds of parameters, you really need to almost have like a master's, and it's like very difficult and a lot of complex parameters and all that. But with virtual surveys, that's like, look, what you do outside is like you look around, what points, what break lines, do I need to like measure? You do the same thing, but now you're going to do it in software. So actually, you don't need to learn anything. You just need to change a little bit the fact that
same principles.
That you need to do it in a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Same principles, just done digitally. And I always, I guess I want to play off what Scott was saying just a little bit too, just about the lightness of the software, because I don't want people to be fooled like that doesn't translate to powerful, because like you could take a GIS software, and we all love GIS. GIS is amazing, but when you pull up, I've like been in an architect's office before and pulled up a QGIS or Global Mapper Pro, and they look at the interface and all the buttons, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" They're just. But then you take Virtual Surveyor and you look at the very purpose-built tools that are in there. And frankly, I've used Virtual Surveyor in very much like a GIS kind of perspective too. It's not, I think it's just so versatile, and the tools are so kind of set up in a way that you can not only use it for this survey workflow, but I think it just has a lot of really light and quick and powerful workflows that just make a lot of sense. So I think that's been really eye-opening for me, because from what Scott was saying, I discovered it, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. And I was doing all my processing online. Like I was just sending all my data to, it was actually Esri's site scan, which is, it's a great product, but it just, you have no control over your surfaces. Like it's just like, here's all my data, and it just spits out a digital surface model, digital terrain model, and you have no control, right, out of some of those parameters on the input and the output. So I was like, well, I need, obviously this blob of bushes or trees did not get rendered correctly as a surface. I need a way to work with this more reliably, and hence is kind of I started my long search for the right tools, and that's when I came across Virtual Surveyors.
That's also, man, I wish I never used a drone. What I also can apply to that there. Sometimes you see people want to have this super huge point cloud. They want to do like a point cloud classification. And there are a lot of problems by doing that automatically, but assume just theoretically as a thought experiment, it would be possible to remove all the surface point and you have like this perfect ground point cloud. You still run into a problem because of the data volume. So that is, there are multiple problems to solve.
Yep.
And yeah, of course, when you focus on image vision, you're going to focus on that because like it's kind of cool, or you did your PhD on that, or your thesis, or like, and you assume those things like work. But in virtual survey, you solve the problem in the same time. You solve the surface to ground problem by taking ground points or break lines and triangulating that together at bare earth. But immediately you solve also the data volume problem because you capture the significant information with a minimum amount of points and lines, which is like a fraction we have with a raster or a point cloud. In addition to that, you also solve the point cloud raster problem because we produce points, lines, triangles, which you need in CAD. So that also plays a key role there because it's like one workflow and you solve 3 problems actually in a way that is user friendly, but also you don't even have to like recognize the problem because that's just how you do. No surveyor is gonna like walk outside and measure every inch or 2 inch a point. But apparently in when you have drone data, a lot of people wanna kind of do this.
Well, I think you just hit a very critical point because a lot of times when I'm talking to clients about, I like to frame it in resolution, right? Like your surveyor is obviously plays a critical function in the industry. I mean, they're the licensed professionals and they are absolutely necessary in doing amazing things in the AEC space. And when they're out, say on a huge survey, they're doing a topo over, let's just call it 100 acres. They're gonna lay a grid of maybe 50 feet, and they might tighten that up on areas that have more contrasting terrain, or there's more. That's where the main design elements are going to be. So they tighten up their grid as far as their observations, where they're taking those ground observations and getting super precise information, and then they build that tin based off of that and create their surfaces. Well, I'm always saying, well, that's amazing. It's necessary. But what if instead of every 50 feet, you have a point every centimeter or every 6 inches, that sometimes on large properties, you might have a little dip in the land that translates to major implications in the design that could be not quite picked up accurately. And I think the same would be true like with satellite data. Like satellite, you could get 30-meter resolution on a satellite, but with the drones, you're getting so much more data that then you have control over what you can decimate that to like bring it down to a level of what makes sense for this project to get the information that we need. And
that's
I think
also key. You say you have control.
Yes.
Because no computer vision algorithm is capable of like doing a perfect thing.
Right.
Yes.
But the human brain is like, it's very slow, but it's incredibly powerful in like understanding like this is what I need.
Yeah.
So you always need that element. And that's also one of the key things in virtual survey, where we quickly let you switch between some functions that accelerate your workflow, but then when the computer doesn't know, the algorithm stops and asks you again for feedback. So it's never like a black box. Hit this button and then something comes out of it. No, you kind of like work together with the computer to work productive and not automated, but to work in a productive way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually just want to touch on that real quick too, because that's a struggle, right? So I'm pursuing, I hope to be a licensed engineer soon. I'm not yet. And you have these licensed professionals. And I think one of the biggest struggles, and Mike, tell me if you feel the same, like when you bring drone data to a licensed professional, remember they're stamping something, right? It's like there's their professional liability behind it. So control is like that's what attracted me to it as well, right? Like control is everything. You want to be the master over this project because you're putting your stamp, you're putting your liability behind it. And that I think is such a tough thing. It kind of reminds me, if I remember hearing back in the day, like when autopilot was first invented, that they had a lot of problems with the pilots being like, I don't want the plane to go fly itself, right? I want to be in the loop here. I want the plane to do some things, but I need to be able to, take the wheel and land it or take off and that kind of thing. And that's I see the same problem with drone data, right? So many of these like services and programs I've used, it like takes it all away from you, tells you we know better, and then gives back to you something that is just incorrect, right? So that level of control, I gotta give you credit, Tom. I think you guys really worked that out, because that's a tough balance. Because you could make it harder, right? You could make it like there's not automated at all, and basically, which is like CAD drafting kind of, or you could go all the way. So that balance is really tricky, and I wish we saw more software that like had that balance.
Thank you. But a lot of the ideas come from are inspired by customers. Oh, it would be cool if you could do this, or it would be cool if you could do that. Okay, we always critically think why do you, or what problem you want to achieve with that. But that feedback loop is critical. Also has been critical also in making a lot of the great tools we have.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about your customer base? Because I'm curious. Like, I mean, it's in the name, like Virtual Surveyor. Are the majority of the clients surveyors that are using the tool, or do you feel like there's, drone service providers in there, engineers? Like, how do you see this, and maybe frame it in, because I find there's this interesting geographic component of this, because you're in Belgium, and I think there's a lot of really progressive geospatial science happening in the Netherlands. And is that proper to say the Netherlands? Like Belgium is part of the Netherlands? Hold on. Oh, okay. There shows
my Dutch neighbors will laugh now.
Get the map.
Like, it's like brother and sister. But the Netherlands and Belgium, that's kind of a special.
Okay. Well, that just shows my ignorance on some of the geography there. So apologies.
It depends in what period of history you were.
There you go.
Yeah. Periods they were like.
Well, apologies to my European friends over there. So, but
no worries.
So. Yeah, so like geographically there, customers and how it relates to, because I know that certain parts of Europe have really good LiDAR data or satellite-based LiDAR data, right? Like they have publicly available data, but then you could still do amazing stuff with that in Virtual Surveyor. So it's just, I think I see GIS people, I see surveyors, I see drone service providers, I see civil engineers. Like what does that look like from just generally speaking from your customer base?
Yeah, so let's say most of them are like, you can almost always say they're like always surveyors, but are they surveyors running a surveying firm and delivering services to some contractor or to some engineering company? That like kind of depends. You have generic surveyors that serve all those, but we also have like big mining companies that are our customer, or big construction companies, but they're usually always the surveying team that are. So this surveyor person, which can be on its own if you want, or in a small firm, can also be like a group of team in a big company. But essentially, it's the practice they do is always the same. It's about the points, the break lines, creating the topographic model, and when it's about surveying in quickly changing environments, like GS or like more government work, bigger areas, but you don't need also LiDAR coverage. By the way, you also have it in the United States. Very good. Countrywide. It's maybe not so detailed and not so updated, but you have it countrywide. Now, typically in construction projects, it's like super small area, but it changes like every day or every week, and you need to measure like every day, every week. So you cannot have a plane go there. You cannot then, even if you could, you cannot do like every week.
Right.
So, but essentially it's about XYZ and time and following up how that goes. Even when I'm talking about can go from drone data to CAD models. Essentially, you make your CAD model in Virtual Surveyor. you bring it in AgTech or some other earthwork software, and then next week you do it again in Virtual Surveyor, right? Make your CAD model, bring that in AgTech, and you're also going to compare the difference in AgTech with those two services.
Mm-hmm.
Or you do it directly in Virtual Surveyor, then you don't have to do it. But essentially, that time component, following how those things evolve over time.
Right.
But in an environmental context, in the forest, it can stay unchanged for like 10, 20 years, or the land cover. It's okay, the forest grows, but there's nothing really to measure and so on.
Yeah. And we talk about that quite a bit on the podcast, just the democratization of gathering data. Like, governments could task a satellite to gather information that they need, but not the average Joe or Jane can do that, right? So I think that is one of the incredible superpowers of tools like the drones that, people that have experience in going out and collecting accurate data, because it's, I know that the process of collecting data has definitely become easier and easier, but you still have to know quite a bit to keep yourself out of trouble. And, I work with a large earthwork contractor here, and, we have a very open conversation just about, we've thought about buying a drone and we're doing this and that. And I shared a story about there's a county here just outside of Portland that they still deal with an older vertical datum, but their horizontal datum is in NAD 83. So, I'm getting a little bit into the weeds here, but there's this, it's an older vertical datum working with a newer horizontal datum. So you have these issues that arise from that, from the drone's perspective, where, a drone flying RTK is like, I think the ground is this far away, but you're telling me it's 3.5 feet different. We don't like that. And it could give you really skewed results on the back end. So I was explaining this workflow that I had to adopt to like make sure that we're actually getting good data, and we're kind of forcing the tools to work for us, not against us. And he was just like, oh, I had no idea, just like really understanding that it's not just as simple as pushing a button and going and flying. It's like knowing, yes, it's a tool, but it really is about the data, and how do you first collect good data, and then how do you use this tool as this bridge from, the thing for me that really clicked with Virtual Surveyor was like that bridge from the drone data to CAD, because I'd had many clients that were just like, I need this in more CAD friendly things. Like maybe the GeoTIFF or the DSM is not that, they don't need that raster. They need a tin surface, right? Yeah. They need the tin, or they need so it's like,
essentially the tin. Yeah. There's always, you have like so many different digital models of topography. You have like a point cloud, you have a tin, you have contour lines, you have just a regular point grid, you have contour lines, and raster based, whatever. They're just models of reality, and you need to know what you need to use. Like sometimes I also see people wanting to generate contour lines from Virtual Surveyor. Okay, kind of half makes sense, but you're gonna miss the tops, and you're gonna miss the bottoms of ditches, because the contour just doesn't capture that break, or
right. The points do, but the contour doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but contours are for a map on 2D to get an elevation representation in a 2D map, while a tin is more for a design software. But obviously, when you project triangles, a tin in a 2D map, let's say your design, it's not going to make any sense.
Right.
So, but it makes sense to design. So you have all these different models of topography, and I think education is also probably important there, because I never was, also at university, never really explained properly when to use this or that thing. But it's very key there to know what you need for a certain job to do. Hydrological purposes, often you need a raster. All these models work with cells, and like they go from tin is also not going to really help you. So there's nothing bad or good with those things, but as you say, Mike, the key is the skill. You need to have like real brains to know what you want to achieve, and what you need to do. The rest are just tools.
Exactly. I also want to touch on what you said there, Mike, about how you're working in you're working in Oregon and your area has a special datum, right? There's something specific there that I'd never heard about over in New York, right? I mean, we're the same country and different states, totally different things. And then obviously I'm sure you have European standards versus US standards there. What I think is the most interesting is there's that local flavor, right? There's that local flavor of I think this keeps surveyors really in business a lot, and I don't think they're never going to go away because there's these rules and this local flavor that you need to know. But what I find really interesting, again, with the software, is you kind of, I won't say you stay away from that, but you kind of just give, again, in the interest of giving only what you need. You can kind of do it in any coordinate system you want, or you support a bunch of those main coordinate systems, and that's the interesting part too, because we struggled a lot with I can tell this software is made in the US because it has these US things, or I can tell this software is made in Europe because it doesn't even have feet to choose from as an option.
If we only worked on the metric system.
Believe me, and I want to add here too, I wish we worked in the metric system. It would make everyone's life so much easier. But I think my question to you, Tom, is did you start with okay, Virtual Surveyor is for your local market, the group around there, or were you always kind of no, we want this to be this is for surveyors in the United States as much as it is in Europe? Did it start locally, or were you kind of always no, this should just work over the entire world?
Yeah, that was the setup from the very beginning. Yeah. There was some discovery that we had to do there, but that was because, and it holds true because I never, surveying is the same all over the world. If you go from Europe, okay, maybe the units are different, but go from Europe to the United States or to South Africa or to China or Australia, it's the same. It's the same problems. It's exactly same practice. There is no real, okay, the vertical datums are different and all that, but and in South Africa you have southing and westing, so that's kind of strange, but essentially it's the same. You need points, break lines, triangles, and then you have one of your topographic models, file formats to model your topography, and then you're gonna do something with it, something real.
Yeah, we have been talking quite a bit about topography and terrain. I mean, there is this planimetric aspect of it as well that I think has been growing, more of this design tools that are built in. I think that just came out earlier this summer.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little more about that? Just because I think that is, for me in particular, that's been a really awesome tool, because I do get requests to do certain things with the terrain, and a lot of these tools are making it very easy to do that. But just the planimetric kind of the design side of the software, how did that come to fruition, and how do you see that continuing to maybe carve a unique path in the marketplace?
Yeah, that is. There's always one thing that leads to another. When you got, and in these two particular cases, also good to give homage to Mark 1 and Mark 2. Mark Paulson in the United States and Mark Stagel in Australia have been very inspirational on giving all kinds of ideas for the software. The thing is, in the beginning, we were the software was if you want, simple. The focus is just you draw points, break lines, you create a thin contour lines, and you go to CAD, and that's it. But then Mark Paulson continued to say, you need to do cut and fill. You need to do cut and fill, contractors needed. So then we started to move in that direction because we thought that was useful, and it actually is super useful, very interesting. But then you immediately see we kind of you're almost killing your own solution, because if you're going to do the cut and fill and the analysis directly in Virtual Surveyor, actually you don't need your CAD model anymore. So I don't know if you didn't know that if you would have known that upfront, maybe we wouldn't have said that move. Wouldn't have done that so quick. It took us some time to figure out the story then behind it. So essentially now we're not producing CAD models, we're actually producing survey deliverables, and then depending on what you need, you're going to produce or a CAD model or a current film map and so on. And the same evolution we had with design, and then homage goes to Mark Stegel. Oh, this like you have this cool tool with offset, so to survey a curb and gutter.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really cool if I can create a grade, and I have this mine and I want to like do this this access road or this retention pond. But now I cannot really offset by slope. I have to like calculate how much I go into just kind of guesstimating the slope, which is not like really engineering driven.
Right.
So, and because we got so much examples of it, and because it made so much sense to just push it in that direction, we started to make like clean tools there. And yeah, then suddenly you see this magical piece appear, where you actually see, we just started with surveying, you model today, and then it's about, and these all, it's always the same. It's about in our virtual world, and then where you have your survey, your model of today, and then okay, you can go to CAD and make your future. But if you make your future, your design on top of the drone data, which are so visual and so easy to understand what's going to happen, well, boom, you have design and you have that time component. Of course, then you need to build that. So in between, somebody has to like monitor the earthworks, how you go from today to the design you had envisioned. And then suddenly all those pieces all like started together. And so our aim there is to yeah, and it always came from user requests.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we are enthusiastic. We think, oh yeah, that's cool. That's like, but it actually makes a lot of sense, because essentially, you do your drone survey, you do your at this moment it's basic topographic design, like retention pond on top of your drone data. You calculate the earthworks. Okay, you need to balance that, and then essentially you have your design, which again is a tin. On top of the virtual survey terrain, but you export that in and you're going to put it in a machine and somebody's going to like build it.
Right.
So that kind of like unifies the different data models. We have like the very realistic way that we combine the DSM and the orthophoto and virtual survey to create that virtual world. And then that, again, the triangles which you can use to make a simple model of the topography today for CAD, or you design the future again in that simple model, which has to be simple because a bulldozer definitely cannot read the DSM or whatever.
Right.
So, so that nicely connects together. But it's all topography, different models of topography.
Yeah.
So when you want to talk about point clouds, we also bring that in a virtual survey. We convert it in a terrain compatible way. Essentially, it's a model of topography.
Yeah. I think that's pretty slick to just drop a point cloud right in there and it creates your terrain. You could create it from your high points, your low points, or your classified points if you've already classified them before they come in. One thing that we haven't really touched on that deeply yet, and something that I use it quite often for, is just the capturing of the as-built. I mean, we're talking about it. It's just, it's an obvious byproduct of collecting all of the digital world, is you have this virtual as-built of a timeline. And I always talk to people about data. Like, we are collecting copious amounts of data, and you need powerful yet simple tools to be able to interpret that data and then take action from that data, from what you're discerning. Like, that's the goal, right? It's a tool that captures data. Then you have the data. Now, what do you do with it? There's the design side, but then there's also coordination, logistics. If there's an issue and you have to go back in time, you have that digital record. And I've heard it explained this way, and it just makes sense. It's like a good story, a good book has pages, it has chapters to build this really, really powerful story. And if you're collecting data on a job and you just capture a paragraph, it's valuable, but it's not as valuable if you build more of those paragraphs into pages, into chapters, into a book, so that if you do have an issue, and this is kind of speaking more broadly to reality capture too, is like, if you do have an issue down the road, and let's just kind of keep it the underground, to the surface world right now, is we had an issue with an underground utility, some infrastructure that was put in, and you had captured that as part of this process, and you digitized it in Virtual Surveyor, and you gave it a layer name, and you have all of this information built as the story in there. It's invaluable for people to go back and be like, oh my gosh, okay, we're potentially avoiding a claim from a contractor because they said it was this, and this, and we're like, nope, here we go, back to this date. This is exactly where it is, and it's been verified. It's been calibrated with survey control, and being a 26-year contractor, to me, it's like this. It's an advancement of the daily logs. So superintendents keep daily logs on jobs. They have a written narrative of what happened that day, what the weather was, who was on site, any particular conversations, and sometimes you get this. You get this pushback like, oh my gosh, this is like, I just put all this information. It takes me 20 minutes every day, and I never see any value that comes out of this until the day that they need to go back and there's an issue, and they go back 3 weeks into their narrative and they're like, I actually did document that this $100,000 of high-end wood product that showed up got acclimated correctly. And it didn't fail because we didn't acclimate it properly, or whatever that is. It's worth its weight in gold. So that is a written narrative. Now we're taking a 3D model, very akin to that, building this as-built documentation. So I know that the tool is so versatile that I just wanted to highlight this point too, because it's a big part of my business as well. It's like this whole as-built side of things, and I think we definitely need to highlight that as well, because it's not. I mean, this tool is for a lot of people, and I swear Scott and I aren't getting paid for this, but I just feel like, it really is. I want to celebrate it for what it is, because it has been a super powerful tool in my arsenal. And I think all these different ways that it can be used, and data is being generated on job sites, because we're talking about the broader, like, architecture, engineering, contracting. It's just, it's good stuff.
Yeah. I'll add to it. It kind of all makes sense to me in retrospect now, because I feel like I was like doing design in it before there were even design tools, because it just seemed this natural thing. Because you'd give let's say you give something to a client, like the tin or something, right? And they're like, well, okay, but we're going to build a ramp there. So what does that look like? And you can do it. You could do it, right? Back in you could just like go in and it'd be a little more manual. We could draw it in. And I think one of the coolest things is you could do it still fast enough in front of the customer. I don't know if you've done this, because this happened to me a lot, where I'd be on a Zoom call and they'd be like, okay, what about a ramp? And you can just like do it right there in front of them and propose it, which is like, again, I'm not knocking CAD. I love CAD. I'm a huge CAD nerd, but like, you can't do that. You got to be like, all right, our meeting is over. Let me go to CAD and draft up another mock-up for you, and then we propose that. And that's fine, but that's another meeting another day. I think when like I've blown my clients away, it's been doing that stuff like right in front of them. They're like, whoa, like, okay, that's the ramp. All right, what is the volume to add that, to the Earthworks project or something like that? And that, I think, is, I agree. That's like, there's a little spark there that happens with customers, like my customers, when they're like, wow, like we can actually, like we can do it this meeting. Like in this meeting, we can figure out the solution rather than like draft after draft after draft on a CAD proposal.
Yeah, very, very true. What I want to say there. The thing is, nobody is ever gonna ask or order a survey just for the sake of the survey. I feel like I want a survey. Like, can you do a survey for me? And such a nice survey. There's always this ram building, or this water retention pond building, or this mine excavation. There's always another goal behind. And the interesting thing with mining customers, like they typically do all that in house. So they have the workflow from surveying to the earthworks, the groundworks. They have all that. You see it because they do it and they can put it all in perspective. And when you do a parking lot, often, do a survey of parking lot, okay, you make a CAD model, you give it to somebody else, and somebody else is going to do something with it, and the workflow is like cut off. But eventually, there's also this design. There is somebody who's going to do something that otherwise nobody would order a survey. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, that holistic view on what is actually the big project is. But okay, essentially, also for virtual survey, it doesn't matter, because if the workflow is cut off, okay, then you just make your CAD model, give it to the other guy, and okay, they continue in Civil 3D or whatever.
Right.
If everything is like together, okay, then you can like kind of do the design immediately.
Yeah. So what is
for simple things?
Yeah.
Not,
So if you don't mind me asking, I mean, you can be as specific or as vague as you want. Like, what do you think the future looks like there? I mean, I don't know. Not a day goes by that we don't hear the word AI, and that means so many things. But like, what do you think? Do you feel things are going in a certain direction in terms of what the surveyors and all of that want? Is it just more design, or is it something you think something else will be on the horizon?
It's a nice balance of like everything. So we are definitely now, let's say, complete in the sense that we offer survey today, compare time, design the future. Now it's about step by step going deeper for every, let's say, focus point. So there's so many things to do, like 2D maps for let's say just the ridge version, which only focuses on the CAD survey today. Okay, you make a CAD model. Often you want to make your map in a CAD software. Why not do it in Virtual Surveyor? Obviously, for the compare over time, a lot of people just don't want a current field map. They want to regionalize it and to split it up between the different functional portions of their thing. And for the design, people when they do a design, they want to balance cut and fill. Okay, now it's kind of a manual job, but there are also ways to automate that to do auto balance kind of thing. So for everything we have, there always is this next thing, and we're going to give it like attention one by one step at a time.
Cool.
Refinement. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
But always like customer driven, because we get a lot of feature requests, and we always ask like why. We try to ask why. Why do you need this, and what are you going to do with it? Just features for the sake of features, because some nice guy asked it. We want to see. We always want to see the full flow, the bigger picture, and where it fits.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
like for solar panels or something. We're not gonna make something. We get people that use terrain credit for the photogrammetry, and then they want to measure all kinds of stuff. But this is not topography, so our engine is not optimized for that. It's like very small project. It's very small area, so this is not where we're going to focus on, whatever. But everything where it's topography related, and being from water management, construction, earthworks, mining, waste, and topographic surveying is. There's so many things to do.
Yeah, and I'll just add one quick point to that too, because you mentioned something when you're like, we won't do solar panels. I always appreciate that. Like, I think this software, good like drone software, is much about like what you're not going to pursue as what you are, because I think Mike and I can relate. Like, I've had many a good software. They were doing something that I liked, and then they decided there was a shiny new thing that they needed to add to it just for the sake of it, and it made the software worse. I've unfortunately had that experience quite a few times, and it's a really good point. That like what's working, you see that path, and it's not going to suddenly be a thermal analysis tool suddenly just because somebody asked, because it doesn't fit, right? And that's a really interesting thing, because I think it's hard to fight that temptation, maybe, because I think so many pieces of software grab onto that temptation and not in a good way. So that's just an interesting thing you mentioned.
Hey, that's the difference when, so we have a very good internal balance between software engineer and like product management, if you want that. So product management's ambition is tempered by what's realistic or efficient to do with software engineering, which puts a number of requests, good requests, in perspective. But the other thing is, if you just let engineering go ahead, I'm not talking about virtual survey because our engineers are very into the product aspect as well. But when it's just so speaking in general terms, then you're gonna make just features.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool feature. I like to do this as a nice algorithm that's going to do this and that, and there is no focus. You just as a group of features, and way too many features for what your core audience wants, and they don't understand. They need to like struggle, and then you have a use case on your website about this, and another use case on your website about that, and like nobody understands like what do they really do? Is like indoor, outdoor? Is it like with drones? Is it not with drones? It's like yes, it's and so, but that's when the focus is, or a lot of decisions are driven by the technology and technology push. But when a lot of decisions are driven by customer solution or like solutions, what problem do you want?
Yeah, staying focused on that problem statement. I think
then it's kind of easy to to follow that path.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I know that we have a kind of final question we like to ask all of our guests, but I'm curious for, maybe zoom out from Virtual Surveyor as the tool that it is, just more broadly speaking, the industry. What would you say to a surveyor right now, or somebody who plays a survey function who's debating whether they should bring a drone into their workflow?
Yeah. Are you doing topographic work on substantial areas? That's almost a no-brainer to use drones.
Yeah.
It's about boundary properties. I wouldn't do it. When it's just like one pit with one house, I would definitely not do it.
Yeah.
But as soon there are like bulldozers or whatever involved, it's like almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a ton of sense. All right, Scott.
And the risk is not high. It's difficult in the United States to buy DJI drones, but they're not so expensive. Our subscription solutions are pay as you go. For $150 a month, you're good to go. It's turn it on and off. So there is really actually also no risk. So even think about, shall I do it, shall I not do it? Sometimes take just like longer than just buy the thing, go out and just give it a try.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Yeah, and you can just go and try it. It's not I'll tell me. I'm quite turned off when it's like, I have to have like a 3-hour conversation with a vendor before we can try the software. That's probably what attracted me to it as well. You can just try it.
Or you have to sign up for a year subscription at many thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's some insane price, and
you
got to just basically commit your business to this thing before you even know if it works.
Yeah. The entry threshold into drone work, I think, there's obviously the equipment, but the software is no joke. Like there's when I first started, I was looking at some of these more I don't want to say ubiquitous, but like the drone deploys and the Pix 4D and all great products, and I think they have their place, but the pricing structure was set up so it's like they want you to be some enterprise level industry that can put this thing to work for over $10,000 a year. And I'm like, that just doesn't work for me. I need something that works for where I'm at right now and that can grow with me. And that is something that I've really appreciated about Virtual Surveyor.
That's a key differentiator, I think, because our main priority is the customer. And money we make from it is a consequence of that. It's not an objective on its own. But as soon as you are venture capital backed, or as soon as you are in a big group, stock exchange rated listed group, the money drives the thing, and then the money becomes a purpose on its own, and then you 100% gonna make the wrong decisions.
Exactly.
So we don't do that. We don't need to do that. We're not publicly. We have no venture capital. Not that venture capital has its merit also, but we are, let's say, financially independent. We don't have to acknowledge any other party there. we're not stock exchange listed. We make good numbers, and everybody has a super income. And thanks to keep making our customers give the opportunity to renew on a monthly basis. So the choice, am I going to renew or not, is possible for a customer every month. So we have to earn the trust every month again. So that's what we do. And when we do that, everybody's happy. Everybody wins. So that's cool about this approach.
Yeah. Well, obviously you have two happy customers here with you. So, we're always happy
Great.
to use this platform to let people know what tools are out there. And we talk about the ones that we know to be very powerful and very useful. So, listeners take that for what it's worth. And, that the fact that, we both use this every day. I think it is a testament, and I know surveyors that use it, and I know lots of people that use, and I think just, Tom, keep up what you guys are doing, because it's awesome, and really,
it's not
really appreciate it.
only me, because I'm now,
of course, yes,
here, but big credit for the team. Also there, it's such a rewarding factor to work with the team. I have the challenges, we are very critical for each other. It's one of our values. The challenges we do with each other to challenge a new feature and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the thing that comes out of it is often so beautiful and well made, and it gives it's so rewarding to be able to build that together with a group of like-minded people. So that's if you think about what's important in life and what gives you satisfaction in life, this is one of the things that is very very rewarding, to build something together with a team.
And I'm gonna, since you dropped that there, I'm gonna add too that I actually had seen an interview with Jonathan Ive, the guy who designed the iPod and all that Apple stuff, and he had a really, really good speech he gave recently, and it's that you can tell that care that you have for your group and your people comes through the product. Like when you use a really, really well piece of made software, you feel some love. And that sounded a little corny, but I actually totally agree with that you're like, someone who doesn't know me cared about me. And that is a really fascinating thing. And I felt it with the first iPod I used, and I would argue this software is the exact same thing. I was like, wow, someone actually, someone cared. They didn't need to know my name, they didn't need to know who you are, but they actually cared.
Yeah, and that's key, because we are all human beings. So nobody comes to the office to maximize shareholders' value.
Right.
You want to help people, the very nature of you is to do things together, is to help you, and then you help me. We achieve this together. It's so rewarding. That is the satisfaction. Or if you feel that other people have that mindset towards you, that they care for you and not are after your money.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a human trait that we could all stand to do better at. And I feel too, I know that we're kind of winding down here, but just the broader cultural work across different cultures and how things are different. Sometimes I'm like, man, I would, I think sometimes, this could go anywhere. People tend to be workaholics, and I think finding that balance, and because you need this sustainable force behind you in the work that you do. So I think it's important to find that balance and create, as business owners, to kind of create that environment for the people around you that are, doing all the work. I think is absolutely critical. And anyway, we like to end each episode with a final question, unless you have any final thoughts you wanted to share. But we want to leave people with some inspiration before we sign off. But just any final thoughts, Tom, before we jump into that final question?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I already used a lot of the time of voice real estate here. So
okay, yeah,
I could keep on talking forever. So that's not a problem.
We all could.
Yeah. Well, so we like to leave people with something to think about, and something that inspired you. It might be an experience you had. It might be a book you read. It could be a movie you watched. I don't know. Was there something throughout your journey that was really impactful and inspiring to you that might just inspire others as well?
Yeah, there is one book I really enjoyed. Not reading actually so long ago, but it kind of like matched what I just was ending with. Is The Age of Empathy. I forgot actually the author's name. It's like a Dutch guy who passed away not so long ago. We did all kinds of research on apes and how, let's say, apes treat others fairly or unfairly and all that. And it was kind of interesting because that is maybe the purest form of social beings and how social beings like work together and how that mechanism like operates. And maybe we all kind of like forget about that as humans because there's so much science behind it. And it's like economic science, you have like technology science, like you also have like all these consultants that give you advice on how you have to like behave and all that. But the bottom line is just in our very nature, and it's so surprising that we have to like think so much about it and need so much help about it, because essentially actually we all know this and we all have satisfaction from this when it happens, I think deep inside, but we kind of like don't see it anymore because of the mist of all the science and the facts of all the information maybe that is there.
Yeah.
So that is definitely so Age of Empathy. If you if you in the show notes can maybe add the author name.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now.
Might be a good,
and I'm adding that to my reading list right now. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I love like just some of these primal instincts that we have that, you know, we've evolved over millions of years. And, you know, in the last 300-400 years, like we've changed so much. And it's really interesting to see like how some of these things just get buried under the weight of our own hustle culture, busy lives. So I think that's a really, really great resource for folks to check out, and appreciate you sharing that, Tom.
You're
yeah.
welcome.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. Of course. Yeah. Appreciate everything Tom is doing over there. And I definitely would encourage everyone to check out Virtual Surveyor. And, you know, if you do have questions about drones in your workflow, of course, Scott or I would love to talk to you and share more about that. And we're also actively looking for guests. We have a pretty long list of folks that we still have in the queue to talk to, but would love to hear from you and your thoughts. And if you have any comments on this, please share your comments. Would love to hear you. So, Tom, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Enjoy your evening there, and we'll catch up the next time around.
All right, super.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see
Thank
ya.
you for everything, and